This is the North End. This is the North End.
What up, YouTubers and all those looking for streaming distractions on a Sunday night? My name is Paul Forrest, and this is the North End YouTube channel. We have a very special show for you tonight. A lot of you out there may or may not be Man United fans, but even if you are or you are not, you might be obsessed with the question of how did this happen to this club? Where do they go from here? How do they fix this bullshit? We are going to attempt to answer that very question tonight by playing a hypothetical game where one of us has been given the power of director of football and has been given a transfer budget. And then they're set free to sell players, buy players as the market and price setter seems fit. Participating today and as acting basically as our director of football is my man, David Convery.
I'm the hopeful Paul Mitchell in this situation. John Murtaugh.
He is the hopeful John Murtaugh, Paul Mitchell, however you want to do it. He's here to fix Man United. And we can't forget the fans. So as part of this exercise, we're also going to bring in our friend, Man United fan, Carlos, who is here essentially to hear what Dave's plans are. And kind of like, you know, is that bullshit? Is that dumb? Did he just do that? Did he really just sell that guy? Whatever it ends up being. So before we get too deep into this, and because it's kind of appropriate because Carlos is on camera, I just want to remind everybody that we are sponsored by Manscaped. And that if you watch us, you do get 20% off and free delivery with the Tidy TNEP, the North End Pod discount code on screen right there. There you go. There you go. It's pretty cool. I know Carlos is a big fan.
Yes,
I know Carlos is a big fan. Carlos, he's got sponsor. Sell it. Sell
long time consumer. I could not speak more highly than this product. It's changed my life for sure.
Oh, that's sweet.
Change your dating life.
Mm-hmm. And as a fan, I just want to remind the audience that, you know, I'm the drunk fan at the pub. That's who I am. I'm the sounding board for, you know, the United fans out there that are frustrated, but picture me as the drunk guy at the pub after the game.
I'm glad you're here because I am very Paul and I talk about this stuff a lot, so I kind of have an idea on how Paul feels about a lot of this. But I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on where I'm going with the team. So I'm very happy you're here, Carlos.
So official. Let's make it official. As of right now, the appointment has been made. David Convery is now director of football. David Convery, we're going to stay on screen for this early part because what I want to hear from you now is you're walking into a project. What's your assessment of the project as it stands today as you take over the keys to the Ferrari or the beat up truck or whatever you want to call Man United right now?
Okay, so as I take over this role as of right now, thank you for pointing me, Paul. Manchester United, from a squad selection standpoint, needs, I would say, an almost complete overhaul, especially, and I'm jumping ahead here because I'm sure we'll discuss the new manager and the style of football that the manager is not looking to play, but demands. It's not I've got this new job, I've got this group of players, I'll get them on board. Ralph Ragnick's been very clear publicly, and I'm sure he'll be sharing this with the new manager, that there are a large number of the players in this current squad that are incapable of doing what are required. There's also a large number of players that are out of contract, so this is going to be the biggest mass exodus. And it's not just theoretically, and when we go through this, kind of fun thing we're going to do tonight, this is actually a version of this is going to happen. To what degree, we don't know. So there's a bunch of players that are out of contract, also not good enough that we're not looking to re-sign. And there's also just a bunch of players that are equally not good enough that will be looking to be sold. And I don't think it's going to be like it was in the past, like a Phil Jones type situation where you can just hang around for another season or two. There's going to be serious conversations with agents and players and say, listen, we don't have a place for you here. this is a new look club. You need to go find another one because you can't hang around and just train with the under 23s. I believe a new culture is coming in. As the director of football, I'll be making sure that culture is in place. So a complete squad overhaul, Paul, with also a lot of players coming in, some with a price tag and maybe some for free. But this will be the first time in my lifetime in Premier League era that Manchester United will be going through a complete overhaul, not just at the squad level, but at the culture level and a lot of other levels within the club.
Okay, so he's kind of gone the mic. He said his piece. Carlos is a fan. How do you feel about what he said? Do you feel like he's got a good handle on the job, the task ahead of him?
I feel fantastic hearing those words. It is music to my ears. I've been praying for an overhaul for a while now, so it's been so obvious. I think last season, I don't know if it was related to COVID, maybe perhaps playing without fans in the stadiums. They were a completely different team. And perhaps that Europa League final just completely decimated the morale. I have no idea. But ever since Fergie retired, there's just been an ongoing patchwork of just hey, Band-Aid solutions, short-term type signings, and not thinking about a vision. So, David, I am happy to see you as director of football operations because we want that vision. I want to see that overhaul. Are you kidding me?
And here we go, Carlos. The one big thing about my new role is that I do not have to get the thumbs up from a gentleman named Ed Woodward, who has been in place as Fergie walked out the door and is a big part for played a big role in the catastrophe that's been this last 7-8 years and that has brought us to here.
Massive role. Happy to see him go. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. He started to figure out his transfer windows. To be fair to him, probably the last 2 or 3 have been much improved, but goodbye, Eddie. Seriously, it's been a long time.
I do like hearing that the new director of football has a really clear handle on blaming the predecessor as much as possible to buy himself some more time. I like this. Okay, so this question was posed weeks ago when we started playing this exercise because it does take a little bit of time to get your head around the challenge you've been presented. So we're going to start with a question that this was his pre actually any news or decision. Which manager would you have wanted to hire to rein in this new era under your reign of Manchester United?
Funny you ask that, Paul. The manager that I selected prior to any recent news or appointments was, in fact, Erik ten Hag. The reason I wanted Erik ten Hag, a number of reasons. I'll start. His style of play. Number one, his style of play, and we're going to get into this a little bit more with the ins and outs of the squad, is a demanding style of play. Very pressing, very compact, very structured, a lot of movement, a lot of on and off the ball. When he started at Ajax, everyone says, Erik ten Hag, 4-3-3. Erik ten Hag started with a 4-2-1-3. He actually augmented that sometimes to a 4-1-2-3-1. And then he's ended up this last season and a half with a 4-3-3. But he's flexible and he knows what he wants. But the key thing here is he's demanding. What I really like about him is he's got a defined style, and it starts with work ethic. He wants hard pressing. He wants positional coverage. If you're going to get up the field, you need to get back the field. The polar opposite of what you see at Manchester United and what you actually see at clubs like Manchester City, Chelsea, and Liverpool. So for the Premier League to compete at that high level in modern day football, this is the manager that's required for the job. A lot of people were saying Pochettino. I thought Pochettino did a lot with a Spurs club. He had great players. Still not the style that I think is needed for elite football, and that's what Erik ten Hag brings. The thing I also like about this appointment is he's not the big, proven, sexy name. He's not the Pochettino, the Mourinho, the Conte.
But he is sexy. He is sexy.
Very sexy. Very sexy. But the thing I really enjoy about him is that he doesn't care about the name on the back of the shirt. He cares about his plan. He cares about your ability to listen and deploy his tactics and get out there and do it. He is the perfect manager, in my opinion, to come in here and right this ship. And I will say before I finish, Ole was the nice guy. He was the nice guy who wanted everyone to get along. He wanted to be Fergie Jr., but a modern day nice guy. Eric Ten Hag doesn't give a fuck what your name is. He's got a plan, and he wants you to execute it. And if you don't, he'll find somebody else who will. He's been my pick, and I'm happy to have him.
I certainly hope that he answers the phone when you call. I hope that works out for you.
We're texting a little bit, but we haven't gotten to Instagram friends yet.
Cool. So now we get into the actual kind of structure of the game. You were, in fact, given a fictional sum of money. We'll call it the war chest. For this exercise, you were given 100 million. Let's not get into the whole euros or pounds thing. I set the prices of players. I found a happy medium. It's not real money. This is not a real exercise. You are not predicting the future. You are not subject to the reality of how many moves you could probably accomplish in a window. There are no fax machines that might break down. There are no Raiolas. There are no bullshit agents. Moves are done like a video game. But this mental exercise that you're about to go down, you start off with 100 million, but you can raise more money by selling players. Every player you wanted to sell, you were given a price for. You can go through the list of everybody and add up a new total amount, and then we'll talk about who you want to bring in. So at this time, I'm going to give you the floor, and we can walk through all the players that you have decided are get out. Not thank you so much. Whatever the move is, you can give a bit of a reason why, or it might be a completely obvious reason. You don't have to dwell on it if you don't want to. But we are going to put you center stage to walk us through all the ins and outs. I do suspect you're going to probably start with one player, so I'm going to throw that bad boy up on screen for you. Paul Pope.
Yeah, and you know what? What more can you say, right? This is a player that United let go for free quite some time ago, signed for Juventus. I remember the time Alex Ferguson was not very happy with his agent, and we paid 90 million or 94 million euros to get him back. I remember being very excited. I actually got a Paul Pogba jersey this season. He came back and really supported him for quite a while because, he had a cult-like following, and we all know that Paul Pogba is a very skillful, high-end footballer. Ultimately, at the end, he's an injury-prone player who gets a lot of credit for his role at an international level, and you hear the terms all the time. We have to unlock Pogba, unlock nothing. Here's the issue with Paul Pogba. He's injury-prone, but more than anything else, he's lazy. He doesn't run. He doesn't play defensively. He's not really a big tackler. He gives the ball away constantly, and then he moans about it. And then when he's on international duty, he gets his agent to make comments, and he makes his own comments. Here's the thing. This is a player that everybody calls world class. You know, for me, what world class is now, being able to do it week in, week out in the Premier League, and Paul Pogba can't. I don't want to have sour grapes about it, but there's not a player in this squad. His contract's up. It is time to say goodbye to Paul Pogba and wish him luck on his way. In my personal opinion, he's not capable of being an elite player in an elite Premier League team, and that's what United is trying to build. And I don't even think Eric Ten Hag would give him a sniff in the starting lineup after watching about 20 to 45 minutes of Paul Pogba play football. Goodbye, Paul Pogba. Juan Mata, I've loved you. 2014, we signed you. You were the first, I believe, David Moyes signing. I think you were a fantastic player. I still think you're an incredibly gifted, talented player. The problem is this. You've gotten older, and the pace and physicality of the Premier League has passed you by. I think you'll end up going to Spain or Italy, and you will flourish. Thank you for everything. I will always love you. Goodbye, Juan Mata. Jesse Lingard, you running your mouth a lot lately about the dressing room. You've had some good spells, I believe, under Van Gaal. Wouldn't necessarily be opposed to keeping you, but I think it's time for the relationship to end. I think the way you've handled yourself in the last 6 months to a year has been sometimes unprofessional, but we're looking for a player that fits a profile and a caliber, and I don't think you're it. You'll likely end up at West Ham. I wish you luck. Thank you for everything you've done. Bye-bye, Jesse. Anthony Martial, maybe the best debut goal you'll ever see against Liverpool. kept scoring under Louis van Gaal. Really, really has lacked consistency since that first season. A lot of attitude problems have been rumored to be a problem for Martial. Could never get a consistent run of form. A lot of issues off the field as well, which may have also been a problem. Most recently loaned out to Spain, and there's talk there that they don't want him either. He'll come back in the summer. We'll find someone to take him because I don't think he's got the application desire to make it at this club. Bye-bye, Anthony. Thank you for everything. To Heath Chong, you were a very, very talented young man. Still are, that I expected big things from. Came out of the academy. You were fantastic with Mason Greenwood. You were never able to take it to the next level. I don't even know if you're a Premier League player. I'm sure you'll end up in Europe somewhere in one of the lower leagues, and I wish you nothing but luck, young man.
I'm going to give you a small break because I feel like you're giving them a lot of time, and I know that might get a little tiring. So if you want to sip your beer, sip your water, we're going to do that right now.
No.
Carlos, any shockers to you so far? These are all pretty standard stuff, right?
No shockers. Well said, David. Goodbye to all of them. You could say that aside from Chong, all of those players could have left last season. So
yeah,
thank you so much. Happy to see them leave.
And they've all had good moments. They've all had good moments at United, but where we're trying to go and what's going to be needed, and we're going to get into this a little bit later on in the show, what's going to be needed from this new squad that is being built, unfortunately, none of these players are able to deliver that. They're just not. And anybody who wants to make an argument otherwise, I'd be happy to have that. Maybe Lingard in the right system, but when you're the one leaking things from the dressing room, you've already got one foot out the door and it's time to go. We're building a new culture as well.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe that, and the fact that it was Scholesy that is happily broadcasting that and saying Jesse wouldn't mind if I mentioned this. How insane
and who knows?
is that?
And who knows? Maybe he doesn't mind.
Respect. That's just so much disrespect to the club. I couldn't believe I heard that.
Lingard has a lot of bitterness, and we don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
It's transcending into a different story, guys. Like, I don't know how you're possibly going a different way, but stick to the story at hand.
Okay.
Sometimes it flies off the handle, Paul. Sometimes it flies off.
It's like herding cats. Not visible for some reason, but definitely is on your outs. Edison Cavani. There is no slate for that. I don't know what dropped off there. So I think we can all understand why Cavani is going to be moving on without talking too much about it. If anybody is wondering about the situation at Man United, there's a good 5 to 6 people or players that Dave has just rhymed off. That's not his decision. They're just gone. They're moving on.
Oh yeah.
If anybody's like, this is such a major overhaul, 5 or 6 guys are just done. No matter what Dave as acting director of football has to do with it. It's just we are in a weird natural turning of the page moment at Man United, which in some view, like myself, that's a fairly optimistic place to be. We all of a sudden have way more money and less wages to worry about, and more clearly defined roles to fill. And we're going to get into the next decision, and I think it's a big one. I think we're going to spend a little bit of time letting you talk this one out. The next move is maybe a surprise to some of you, and I'm going to let my man Dave talk it out.
Harry Maguire. Now, I want to say a couple things. I think Harry has become the scapegoat for this season, especially the second half of the season, which I don't think is fair. Harry Maguire, 80 million pounds signing a couple of years ago, and I was very happy with the signing. I do think the price tag was too high, but I thought Harry came in right away and played well. Ole had a different style than Ralph Rangnick has had, but again, if you are going to play or build a team, you look at the Liverpools, you look at Man City, the pace is fast. You need to be able to scan the field quick. You need to be able to take the ball, move the ball, make tackles. Harry Maguire is not an elite level central defender. He's constantly out of position. He's the captain of the team who does nothing to control his back line or the midfielders in front of him. And it's not that Harry's not a decent center back. I'm sure Harry could go to Everton or back to Leicester or somewhere else and do just fine. But if you're going to build a squad, in my personal opinion, you need to start from the back. And I think Rafa Varane on his day is still an elite center back. Harry Maguire's not. And what he's become is a liability. And I do feel for this revolution to begin, this might be the first actual move that needs to happen to almost set the stage and set the standard to say, listen, I know we paid $80 million for this guy a couple years ago. He's not good enough. Somebody take him for $35 million. Here you go. Let's move on. Let's bring somebody else in. He's not the guy. If Harry Maguire is the starting center back next season, I'll be blown away. And I mean that genuinely. And again, none of this is a knock on him. He's simply not good enough. I think the incoming manager will realize that quickly. And I think the best thing for everybody in this scenario would be to sell him. I don't know. I'm pretty sure the player doesn't want that. But I also don't think he wants to sit on the bench. This is a starter for England. And I think it would be best for both parties and really start off this revolution by parting ways with Harry Maguire this summer. Alex Telles, this is a guy that came in for Portugal. We said, hey, you know what? Luke Shaw needs some competition. This guy can shoot. He's an attacker. He can get forward. He can cross. Here's the problem. Similar to Harry Maguire, the guy doesn't know how to play his position. On top of that, he's not physically capable of playing in the Premier League. Every 50-50 tackle he goes into, he gets knocked off the ball. He's a couple of paces behind this league. This will be a theme. You'll hear me talk about it, and I want to hear Carlos' opinion as well. You need to be quick, fast, and physical to not be elite in this league, but just to get by. And Alex Telles isn't those things. He's got a wonderful left foot. He can shoot. He can cross. He's got a decent football mind. He doesn't have those key things. Physicality and pace. I think Alex Telles needs to go this summer. Eric Bailly, I was very excited with his signing. He's the center back we wanted. Physical, hard tackles, could play the ball. He's basically been Manchester United's Jack Wilshere. He's been injured, 65% of the time he's been here. And recently, Phil Jones has been chosen over him. Apparently there's some attitude issues. He's posting on Instagram that he should be playing. Even if you were healthy, you're going to be injured 2 tackles away. It's time to cut ties. Good luck, Eric Bailly. Thank you for everything. I wish you weren't so injury prone. Andreas Pereira, the young man from Brazil, played in the Olympics. He was an up-and-comer. We wanted him to be that number 10, that silky Philip Coutinho type player. That's what he was brought in to do. He's never been able to do it. Similar scenario where he hasn't been able to keep up with the pace of play, not physical, constantly getting knocked off the ball, giving the ball away. The levels up here, he's always been down there. Great shot, just not good enough for the league or especially this team. Good luck. Nemanja Matic, I will tell you, put some respect on this guy's name. A title winner with Chelsea in his day at one point, the best central defensive midfielder in the world for about 2 to 3 years. The problem is we're in Juan Mata territory. He's too old, he's too slow, and it's not going to be good enough. If he sticks around, fine, but I think he's on the list of players that you got to say, you got to go in order for us to make this happen. Go back, go to Italy, go to Spain. You've got another 3 years left in you. Thank you for everything, but good luck. Dean Henderson. Ooh, here's the issue here. As far as I know and what I think, David De Gea will be the starting goalkeeper next year at Manchester United. Now, can De Gea play the ball at his feet? No. When he kicks a ball out, does he get anywhere near his target 50% of the time? No, he's horrendous. Here's the problem. He's still probably the best or top 2 or 3 shot stoppers in the world, and he's not going anywhere. Dean Henderson's a wonderful goalkeeper. He's going to want first-team football. Don't be surprised if Newcastle are coming in for him. Good luck, Dean. Phil Jones, please leave. Please leave. You've been here 7 to 8 years too long. I know you've had a lot of injuries. I hope you get fit and start playing regular football. It can't be at Manchester United. It's been far too long. 5-year contract from Ed Woodward a couple years ago. Might be the worst contract in football history. It's time to leave. Good luck, Phil. Axel Tuanzebe, the center back I thought was going to be the guy. What a loan spell at Aston Villa. Great season in the championship. Composure, physicality, a good eye for a pass. Was not able to transfer that at Manchester United at the Premier League level. Not consistently enough. Then injured all the time, and you could never quite get that confidence back. It's the next level of jump that you were never able to make. I wish you nothing but luck, my friend. Brandon Williams, if you ask Manchester United fans, there's a lot of Manchester United fans, I'll tell you right now, bring Brandon Williams in next year. He could be the starter over Luke Shaw or Alec Telles. He's got the United attitude. Brandon Williams will not start for any Premier League team ever. I want to be very clear about that. And that's not me disliking him. He's not good enough. he'll have a great career if he can be a starter at a championship club. The fact that he's still here is part of the problem. Brandon, you have to go. I wish you nothing but luck.
Okay, so the next one, and it's been a lot, and I appreciate that you're actually giving, some fair time to each of this instead of just doing the Trump, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, which some of these guys, you could have done that, and I would have been like, I'm okay with that. But yeah, you're giving them their fair shake. The next one is an enforced change. I just want to be clear about this. We don't know what's going on. We have no idea, nor should we. It's not a statement on Dave's part that this is happening, but we have to assume Mason Greenwood will not be available for Man United moving forward. It's not something anybody really wants to talk about, but the reality is we are weak on the right-hand side of our team right now. We are weak when it comes to the future of our striking positions, where there might have been a pseudo plan in place to have older strikers as stopgaps until Greenwood was ready to be the guy or to compete to be the guy. All that shit's probably out the window. So the reality is Dave Convery needs to work around Mason Greenwood being unavailable, and that is why he's been listed as a forced reality that Dave has to be aware of as he works through the changes to the team. So at this point, Dave has raised 170 million. He's killed all these guys you see here below the picture. It's a lot. I'm gonna pop a little bit of a conversation here because as is the case with real football, a lot of fans will react yay or nay to the outs, and they will comment, and they will Twitter feed, they will hashtag, they will throw their 2 cents in the air. Carlos, you see a summer where your Man United team has 16 guys out the window, gone for various reasons. Are there any names on that list that you feel are shockers or are really big concerns? Obviously, there are going to be ins and outs at the same time, but let's assume in this perfect world that it just starts with a whole gut-wrenching of outs first before you start figuring out what the ins are. Is there anything happening there that you're just like, oh my God, what's happening? Or is it all just like gravy?
Well, love the list, Dave. It all makes sense, really, because it's so evident based on the level of play that we've seen. But I'll have to say that I think with Maguire, it's pretty tough to turn around and sell that type of player, considering how much you spent on him. So it's not the best football type business transaction that we'd be looking for. So I would say he's still, if we are able to go out and get another central defender and relieve some of the pressure, I still think there's a lot of good football to be seen from Harry Maguire. It just seems that the situation is so kind of ugly at this point that to turn around and sell him for pennies on the dollars just doesn't seem like good football business. That's my opinion. And then in addition to that, I do think that Telles is very creative going forward. His offensive ability is very strong, and I think under the right system, he'd be a very valuable player. Because from what I saw from him in the Premier League in Portugal, he was just banging in assists, crossing it in, just always thinking offensively. He's a real asset going forward. Obviously, he exposes himself so much, and he is weak. He gets, he gets beaten to the ball constantly. But I wouldn't be quick to get rid of Telles because he does seem to have a bit of a breath of fresh air every time he comes on. More so when he's subbed in as opposed to when he's starting. But those two guys, I would consider hanging on to. The Greenwood thing is unfortunate. I totally understand the situation. It would be nice to see Greenwood come out of this and take action and make something better out of it, and for his own sake, because it's a really unfortunate situation. But the kid is so young and he's made a huge mistake. I would love to see him try to make something good out of it
Okay. Listen,
And-
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he-
Let's
you know,
calm
but
down
it's-
there.
it's not.
Yeah, but
this
he's-
is not related to the actual task at hand. Okay, nobody is here to have an opinion about that particular move.
But
that
he is
move
a-
is forced. We've said why, and that's
Let's
all
be
we're gonna say
careful
about
there.
it.
Yeah.
That's all
he's
we're
been
saying about
invited. He's been invited back to training. Like he is training.
He is
I don't know if
not.
you guys know
I
that.
know he has not, Carlos.
He has not been invited back to train. There's that
Don't-
really stupid rumor going around.
Yeah.
And every time we
Did I read the
lose,
rumor wrong?
His name
Yes.
is trending because everybody's like, "Oh, we wish he was back." Let's not talk about it, but let's be clear. He is where he should be right now, and
That's right.
That's all it is
Fair
to it,
enough.
unless somebody can prove otherwise, and it's
Of course.
prove otherwise.
But before we move on here, I would like to address the Maguire and Tellez comments because I think they are fair, Carlos. I think my reason for including them is, and it is very aggressive and it's very harsh in a sense that if you can't do basic defending and it's starting to look like against elite teams, like against teams like Liverpool and Man City, even like a Spurs, if you can't just do the basic 3 or 4 necessities of being a defender in the Premier League, I can't have you in the squad. It's starting to look like Tellez falls into that bucket, and it's definitely looking like Harry Maguire is falling into that bucket. And the reason I've added them in the list is I think the biggest issue United have had in the last 7 to 8 years is just having these guys hang around. Oh, he's still in the squad. We need to start being ruthless. If you're not good enough, Man City, you have to go. If you're not good at Chelsea, you go. It's same with Liverpool. So why aren't we doing that at United? So that's the reason they're included. I understand what you're saying with the cost around Maguire and what Tellez can have to offer. And who knows what the new manager sees, but my rule of thumb, especially in this kind of role as director of football, is if you can't cut it here, you're not going to be here. And that's what it looks like to me with those two players. Hopefully I'm wrong. We'll see.
I'm unique in that I'm hosting this, but I'm also a Man United fan. So my 2 cents are, one, Harry Maguire with an actual CDM in front of him might be interesting to see what that actually looks like. I get what
Will
you're
it,
saying.
though?
You're not good. If you're not good enough, you're gone. I get that. But like, if you're not making a ton of money on that anyways, even if he becomes your second choice center back, I just see like it's kind of worth having there because again, if you're not good enough, then you sit. But being sold on the heels of a bad season, I don't know. That feels a little
Bad
extreme
business.
to me. It could be bad business, but also I'm genuinely curious to know what with not playing behind Paul Pogba or a slow Matic, what does that look like? If there's somebody who's a grass chewer in front of him, I bet he looks much better because right now he usually gets put out of position because he's trying to press where there's nobody covering somebody, and he's trying to take it all on his own shoulders sometimes. And he's also like a little bit brain dead. He's not a good defender. Like he'll never be 80 million. He'll never be amazing, but I just don't think he's necessarily worth moving on for a huge loss. Whereas Tellez, I cannot see a Man United team that has 2 dog shit positional left backs competing for the same role.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have one left back that actually knows how to play left back. Tellez can go off and be a wing back somewhere that plays 3 at the back, and he would be amazing. Tellez would work really well, I think, at Chelsea. Like, there are teams that have structures that would give him the freedom to just run up the field and cross the ball. But
Watch him closer. Watch him closer in a sense that even like not even a 50-50 tackle, and we can chat about this a little bit.
This is
slow.
not. I don't want to belabor things. All I'm saying, I literally just said sell him, and then I just gave an example of another place he could go. So
Yeah,
we're
take him,
not
Chelsea.
arguing, so there's no need talking about it anymore because I do say get rid of him because him and Shaw, neither of them are defensively sound. You can't have that on the left side. So he's the obvious one to go, and I have no problem with that.
But do you think Maguire can turn it around with a good midfield in front of him, Paul? I really want to know this. No, I don't think so.
Well, again, is it worth finding out is the question I have posed, and that's why I'm saying it's probably worth keeping him. Because losing 45 million on him when he's still a decent defender, like a 35 million is what you spend as a backup center back now, and you're selling him for 35. Like if he got demoted to backup, like it doesn't make too much sense to me.
And you're probably right. He will be kept, but he will be demoted to backup.
Right.
And
I
you know
gotta
what?
get this
Maybe
truck moving. This truck
maybe that lights a fire.
Let's go. You know what? You're the director of football. Who are we to say yes or no? I don't think anybody's really gonna like set the Twitterverse on fire for any of the things you just did.
Oh, they are.
I have concern about Harry Maguire being sold, but I really feel like what Carlos and I are both saying is like, I don't know about that one, but like nobody's saying hashtag David Convery out, you would still have our support, which brings
Thank
us
you.
to basically how the game is going to function from here. Your sales, you have made 170 million with those 16 players that are moving on. Some are moving on because you want them gone. Some are moving on because they were going to go anyways. But you've raised 170. You started with 100, which brings your war chest for who you're bringing in, who you're building your future Man United squad around at 270 million. So this number at the top of the screen will reduce based on the purchases that you're about to outline. So we at home can follow along your spreadsheet in your giant leather-clad office that smells like fine books in Old Trafford as you sit and purchase the new squad for Man United. Who was your first transfer in? I believe it was...
Oh, Christopher Nkunku. Now, this might be a choice that a lot of people aren't thrilled about. You think about attackers, you think about forwards, you think about Holland, you think about the red-hot Darwin Núñez. I think with the players that United have right now that I expect to still be there, Christopher Nkunku would be a perfect addition. He can play as a number 9. He's fast. He can beat players one-on-one. He can score. He's got a good eye for a pass, but he's physical and he's quick. And you've heard me say those things a number of times on this show. That's my key focus for players that I'm bringing in that have the physical capabilities and have the pace and speed required to be elite in this league. This guy could play across the front line. He could play in from the left. He can switch out to the right, but he can also play as a number 9, which is where he plays right now for RB Leipzig. I think he complements the team with the attackers that we're going to have next season. The Jaden Sanchos, potentially Cristiano Ronaldo. Hopefully Marcus Rashford can get it together. This guy would be great. He has great link-up plays. Like I said, he can go up the middle, bang the ball on the net. He can cut in from the left and shoot or set it up. He's not the player everybody wants. He's the player I think we need. And some of those other players that are being linked are those other sexy forwards. I don't fit United mold. I think this would be a fantastic signing, and I genuinely hope it happens. Pau Torres. Pow! Pow, pow, pow! We were linked with Pau last year from Villarreal. We played against Villarreal in, was it? We played in the Europa League. Can't remember. Europa League final as well. Pau Torres is composed. He's a left-footed central defender. He's the type of player that would slot in very nicely next to Varane if Varane stays healthy. He can move the ball out from the back, but positionally, he's sound. We need that more than ever. He's not afraid to go in a tackle, and he wins a tackle. He's a model central defender. Do I have some fears of his adaptation in the Premier League? A little bit, but I think he could do it. He's played very well against Premier League squads in the past. This guy would be a fantastic addition to Manchester United's back line. I hope it happens. I'm director of football. I'm going to make it happen. David Rahm, left back based out of Germany. Again, you saw him getting rid of Telles. Brandon Williams gone. I need a guy to step in. Is this guy going to be my starter? Probably not. I am in the very, very rare minority where I do think Luke Shaw could come in and turn things around and get things back on track, but you need competition, and we don't have any. And Rahm could push Shaw, or who knows, he could step in and make that left back role himself. Similar to Telles, wonderful delivery, can get forward, sees a pass, can get into a tackle. He would be a good addition to the squad as left back. Tarkowski, big man from Burnley. We've been watching him for years. Harry Maguire 2.0? Maybe. Is he my starter? Absolutely not. But is he a big body that can play along the back four, pick up his man, aerial threat in the box defensively and offensively, but the guy's got pace as well, and he can get a tackle in there. He's got one thing Maguire doesn't have. He can move, and he can pass a ball. Is he going to be spraying out 35-yard passes? No, but he can bring some solidity and some backup options for the center backs in Manchester United, and he's free. I think he'd be a great addition. I hope we make it happen. Silky smooth Riyad Mahrez 2.0. Eric Ten Hag is coming in, and why not bring your left-footed right winger? This guy has got a wand of a left foot, can beat you one-on-one, can cut inside, can pass, can shoot. He's the inverted right winger I think we've been looking for a long time. He's a young man. He's a little slender, but he's fast. I don't think he'd be afraid of the Premier League. I think he'd come in and I think he'd make an instant impact. Eric, put him in the suitcase, bring him over with you. Actually, maybe just get him a plane ticket and let him fly over with you when you come as well. Would love Anthony on the right wing of Manchester United. He's got that dynamism that we need from the wing that we haven't seen in a while. What a signing this young man would be. Bouba Kamara from Marseille. When's the last time Manchester United had a true central defender? We had Matic, but he was a little bit older. Probably Roy Keane. Bouba Kamara can sit in front of the back four, even play in the back four if he needed to, as a true central defending midfielder. He can spray 30-yard passes. He can tackle. He can move forward. He's got it all. Don't ask him to go box to box, but if you're going to bring him in, and Eric Ten Hag wants a guy to sit right in front of that D and be very effective and mark a guy and play that system that you want with a couple of CDMs in there for free, this guy would be a hell of a signing, and don't be surprised if there's a lot of teams lined up for him. I would love him at United. Amadou Haidara. Okay, I want to be very clear here. I struggled very much so between bringing in Haidara or Yuri Tillemans from Leicester. The reason I want this guy in the squad, and I want him badly, is he could be the catalyst for the midfield when it comes to work ethic, tackling, box to box, defensively, getting forward into the attack, scoring goals, and making goals. He could be the linchpin of this new midfield. He has it all. He doesn't have a weakness. He can literally break up a tackle, make a pass, get into the box, and score a goal. He is going to be, for me, the standard for what is expected for a Manchester midfielder moving forward, and that's work ethic with ability. Those two key things. What a signing he would be. If he doesn't happen and Tillemans happens, I'm not going to cry about it, but here we go. Ruben Neves, the Portuguese wonder kid, can strike a ball, but more often than that, he doesn't score a lot of goals, but when he does, they're worldies. Ruben Neves has it all. Some people would consider him a deeper lying midfielder, central defensive midfielder, but he gets forward and he dictates the play. Wonderful passer of the ball. Great tackler, wins balls back, and keeps the flow of the game going. Will keep the tempo up, does a great job for commanding the midfield of Wolves. What he would do at United is keep that high tempo that I'm looking for in this new squad by doing it all. Similar to Haidara, winning tackles, playing the ball, getting it to our attackers, giving them more chances to get into the opposition box and score. This guy is number one on my list as a must-have in Manchester United's midfield. I want him. We need him. He's fantastic.
It is this point I'm going to own a bit of a formatting mistake. The order was meant to be Neves with 45 million remaining, and then Haidara, leaving you with just 5 million remaining. So moving forward at this stage of the exercise, David Convery has 5 million left and has some moves still planned. I will also chime in that ins in this exercise is not necessarily just transfers. He's also going to talk about purchases that were already made that are maybe on loan, and or players that are maybe ready to make an appearance from the academy. And we'll kind of start kind of giving into that next. Another thing we didn't talk about was that he did sell a backup goalie. We just didn't bother to put it up on a graphic because it was just a long overdue thing that it wasn't really worth putting up, which kind of explains the next move he's going to make and describe to us, which is
Sam Johnson for free. Bring him in. Why not? Good keeper. We need backups. He's a shot stopper. I think he would be a fantastic signing, especially with Dean Henderson likely leaving. He would be a great understudy to David De Gea. I really do hope that this happens because it would just make too much sense. What a signing he would be. Oh, Donny van de Beek, the reunion with Eric Ten Hag. Can he make it work? Here's the thing. I think Van de Beek absolutely gets a crack. He's refreshed. He's got a guy who knows him. He's got a guy who likes him. but we're playing in a different league. We've seen it with Everton, and we've seen it with United, and we've seen it with a lot of United players. The Premier League is the fastest league in the world. It's the most physical league in the world. It's starting to look like it might be too fast and too physical for Van de Beek, but if he is going to come good, there's one guy who will give him a chance and make him come good, and that's Erik ten Hag. In the right system, in Ten Hag's system, he could be the guy to take over Bruno's role if that's how we're going to play, and it could work. We'll see, but if anything, Donny gets a fresh preseason with a manager he knows, respects, and we'll see what happens. He's going to get a shot. Ethan Laird, the right back we want and need. It's no secret that Ralph Ragnick, not a fan of Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Don't be surprised if Wan-Bissaka does go this summer. Ethan Laird looks like he's got all the tools to be the right back that United need and Erik ten Hag would love. He can get up the field. He's offensive. He can tackle. He's quick. He can make a pass. This guy's been on a trajectory like this. It needs to keep going like this because the championship to the Premier League is a huge jump. But if he keeps going and keeps improving the way he has over the last year and a half, this guy could be the answer to all of our questions at right back, and I hope he comes good. James Garner, the question everyone is asking, is Garner ready? Is he ready to do it for United at the top level? I don't think he's there yet. Can he get there? Not sure. He'll be back. He will get a chance in preseason. He's had a wonderful season. He's had a wonderful season out on loan. He's going to get a chance in preseason. I likely think he'll get loaned out to a Premier League club. But if he has a good preseason and Ten Hag gets a look at him and says, you're the guy doing what I need you to do, he might be in the squad next year. Who knows?
Here's where we net out for all the positions. It's a dramatically different team, that's for sure. I think what I'm missing now is maybe a sense of what you think your best 11 are, and then we can talk about how we feel about all these moves.
Okay, bring me back to my 11 screen, or do you just want me to do it from this list?
However you want to do it, man.
Can I do it from... Yeah, I like this list. Okay, so I think that Laird is my start. Actually, let me start net. I mean, it's the position's not there, but David De Gea is my starting goalie. I just want to be clear about that. He's my starter. Now, let's start from the right. I think Ethan Laird can make that right back position his own. If it's not going to be Laird, it's likely going to be Delo. Wan-Bissaka doesn't get near this team. I'd like Laird to push Delo, and I think he can. And I know I'm putting it out there, but I think Laird makes that spot his own this year. Knowing what Erik ten Hag likes, I'm putting Ethan Laird at right back. Center back, Rafa Varane, 100% nailed on. I know he's had a lot of injury problems, and in fairness, hasn't had a great season. He hasn't been the Varane that we've known and loved over the years with those Real Madrid Champions League teams. He is my starter in the right central back position. Left center back, Pau Torres comes in, slots in there easily. I think he's going to be fantastic. Looking forward to that partnership and what they can do together. My left back, I know nobody wants to hear it, and I'm sure a lot of people have an opinion. I'm sure Carlos and Paul have an opinion. I think there's a good left back in Luke Shaw. I think Luke Shaw can be easily put off when people are negative towards him. We've seen it with Jose. It looks like Rangnick's not a fan of him. I hope he gets a fresh start under Ten Hag, and under the right tutelage, I do think there is a fantastic left back in there, and I hope he comes good. Central midfield. Okay, here's what I want. In that central role, deeper, I want Ruben Neves sitting right there. Beside him, just in front of him, I want Haidara. And then beside him, actually, no, I don't want this. I want Kamara sitting right in front of the defenseman, and then I want Hydera and Neves right in front of him. This is a midfield that will not stop moving. I know it's not popular. I know I'm being controversial right now, but just knowing the manager, knowing what the squad needs, this is it. At right wing, Anthony slots right in there. He's a guy that can get up and down that wing, can create problems in the final third, and knows the new manager's system very well. He knows what's expected of him. My left winger is Jaden Sancho. I think he's built perfectly for this Ten Hag squad, has wonderful technical abilities. His decision-making for me is underrated. I know a lot of people think he's not that quick. I might also be in that camp, but he's elusive, and he can draw players in and create space for the striker. Now, the striker is a difficult one for me, but I think in most cases it'll be in Nkunku. If Ronaldo is here, you have to see him starting, but we didn't get into it, and I don't want to spend too much time, but I don't know if Ronaldo's going to stick around with United not being in the Champions League. But if it's not Nkunku, I'm still okay in this system playing Bruno as a false nine, not even a false nine, but as that striker along the line, using the overlappers and using that midfield to push up and him pull deep so he can get fluid movement. And Ten Hag likes to do this in his current systems, where he gets the striker to drop deep while allowing the midfielders and wingers to push forward to create in and around the area. So there's a multitude of options in that striker role. Could be a false nine. I see Nkunku going across with Fernandez being able to play in there if he can keep up with the manager's demands. And I know we haven't brought it up yet, but don't be surprised if that's a massive talking point when Ten Hag comes in about the ability to keep up with his demands and the style of play that he wants and demands.
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, you have Bruno Fernandez being a fringe player.
I think in the upcoming squad.
You
I
did put him in the midfield.
Yeah.
You said he might work as a rotation player, as a false
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. This is my first very big controversial role. I think under the new manager, if Bruno cannot do what he's asked, and I question if he can, and I'll tell you why. Bruno Fernandez is an exceptional creative attacking midfielder when he has free license to roam and do what he wants. Carlos has seen Fernandez play for a long time here. When it gets into a system that is constantly demanding of him moving nonstop, coming deeper, moving left, that's when Fernandez gets upset. He doesn't like it, and I don't know that pace is a strength of Bruno Fernandez's game. When he gets into running matches with other players defensively, he usually loses the ball. He does. I can't see Ten Hag being okay with this. And if he does fit into the system, I do seeing it be a false nine. And I also don't see that being a bad thing. I think it could work.
Okay. Well, a lot to unpack. Obviously, some surprises there. I am going to now ask the hard questions because these moves have been made. David Convery is trending on Twitter. People of all walks of life are dissecting and dialoguing, and Paul Scholes is inadvertently hurting the team by talking some shit, as is Gary Neville, as is Keane. Somewhere there's a photo of Ferguson maybe frowning. Memes are being made. We don't know what's true, what's not, how good a job this will be or not. But I want to know, in the midst of all this, Carlos, you're seeing these moves, and as a United fan, what is your take on what you're seeing from this new director of football named David Convery?
First of all, thank you, David. It's a breath of fresh air to finally see a director of football operations that is not spending ridiculous money on these big name players that it just, it's the transfer rumors, they heat up, and every single time Man United is just in there in the thick of it. And it's just such a waste, and it doesn't help the long-term vision that we're looking to put in place. So happy to have you as our director, David. I love these players. You know so much more about them than I do, but it fits a vision, and all of them would be delighted to get a knock on the door and say, hey, you want to come to United? Because I bet you they would, right? And I think you're finally implementing something that has been lacking for a really long time. But I do love it. I think there's a lot to unpack, but very happy with all those moves. Yeah.
Now, you know what, Paul? poke some holes in my team. I know you've got some thoughts. That was a little bit too nice from Carlos. Carlos, I appreciate it. A real array of love, and I always take that from Carlos. He's a handsome devil. Paul, you've probably got some questions. Hit me with the hard stuff.
Well, let's play the reality game, because obviously you're not going to turn United into contenders in one window. So
True.
As director of football, with these changes and the path that you are sending the team on, where do you think they are in terms of building a team that is your ultimate end goal? You think you can compete with the City and Liverpool? How many years away? How many windows away? How many academy development surprises are you away from really figuring that out? Is this just the best thing you could do to get us back on a path? Or do you feel like, you know what, this is we are much closer than you think with this team? I kind of need to know that, because I'm not expecting competing with anybody after any fictional window that's grounded in 100 million plus sales. Like 500, 600 million, you probably still couldn't get that. So where do you think you're going? And then I'll start asking some hole punching questions.
Yeah, great question. So my immediate goal after this summer transfer window and the overhaul has taken place has to be to get into top four. And I don't think it's going to be easy. But I do think with an overhaul of this midfield, I do see these midfield players that I'm bringing into the team are going to be the catalyst to change this style and this structure. And it's strictly through that effort and application and skill and ability, right? We know what Neves is capable of. If we can play soundly defensive, to tie into the back four, to get the manager to get them to buy into a structure that is focusing in on your position. I'll even say this: when Ole took over the team from Mourinho, we were very defensively sound. So we need to start there. That's going to be demanding. There's been already a lot of reports out there that Ragnick has come out and said internally that this midfield is nowhere near capable of performing at a Premier League level. So we need to overhaul the midfield, which I think, to your point earlier, Paul, will make life easier for the central defenders, but they also need to get a new structure. This whole back line, trying to play the offside trap and then players tucking in behind and scoring goals for fun, it's not going to work. So I think top four is the main goal after this window. I do think it will take at least 2 major summer windows and a little bit of action in each December window for us to potentially compete for the title, and that's with what may or may not be happening at Liverpool and Man City behind the scenes, because there's rumors of Pep leaving. I don't know how much more funding Liverpool are going to get. They've had a masterclass in transfers in the last 6-7 years. So I would say at least 2 summer windows to potentially be fighting for a title.
Okay. I think that's completely fair, because, again, reality is if anybody's out there who's wanting Man United to be contenders anytime soon, then you are probably watching the wrong sport and don't understand how building things works. So I look at this team, and I don't see any obvious issues. I think you have made a better club in a fictional exercise, which is, worrisome if you had not. I definitely think the midfield is much improved in that you've actually got midfield players playing in midfield who seem to know what the job is. I'm a huge fan of Ruben Neves. I think anybody who looks at the Man United squad that doesn't realize how much lack of character there is in that squad isn't really paying attention to how the sport works. I think Ruben Neves is the kind of guy who will run through a wall to get it done. I'm always been a big fan of him. I think as a dressing room guy, as a leader, as a midfield general, I don't even mind the decision to move him further upfield, because I think he can play as a double pivot, but I think he can play further advanced. He certainly has got the shot for it. He's creative. If you just bought him, I'd be like, yes, we are so much better than we were.
Oh yeah.
I don't love the decision, and it may not have been a super decision, but for me, Ronaldo is done. It's not a value equation. It's not that he hasn't done what he has to do for us. It's not a knock on Ronaldo. It's more, this team has to start building out to be a certain way. I think that way requires strikers who are energetic and who can press. And I think you need to have guys who are able to finish more effectively than he is. if you want to have Ronaldo on your team, you have to build a squad that can feed him the ball a certain way. There's more reliance on crossing. There's just things that I don't think under Ten Hag that I want us to start committing to just to get the most out of Ronaldo. And if we're going to be rebuilding anyways, it just feels like maybe it's a better time to give a young striker a chance. Maybe it is time to like experiment with false nines. I don't know. But for me, keeping Ronaldo and having all of these changes and all this new direction feels like we're hanging on to like a remnant, a little bit of the past. This isn't, and again, I'm not saying any of that shit about we're in the situation and it's his fault. Any of that garbage is getting floated around right now. I'm not at all saying that. I'm just saying, know what the future is, and the future does not have 40-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo in the squad. So let's just turn that page now and build now and see how we can get the most out of the striker within this current group. And then if we need to bring somebody in, at least we'll know it. But there's not too many weaknesses beyond that. Like there's nothing here I see that I'm just overly concerned about. I have a lot of faith in the upcoming class of academy guys. There's certain players I think that you probably have forgotten that you were fans of, like Diallo.
I watching him at Rangers, he's really disappointing. I'd like to see another loan next year, maybe closer to home in the championship. He needs to start improving. I think the end product and the raw ability, I want him to be the official. I want him to be the long-term right winger. The skill and ability is insane. Again, and I know I sound like a broken record, guys, but if you don't have the physicality and the pace, and you see it with guys like Bruno and this league will eat you up. It'll eat you up. It moves fast, and he's nowhere near it yet.
I think the only one I have a little bit of a gut reaction to, and it's kind of like it's a double-edged sword a little bit. Kamara on a free, you can't really argue it, right? But the way you've brought him in is he is the guy. He is that central defensive midfield player that we've been crying out for because he's the only true CDM in this mix. And I worry about that a little bit because I think he's got this evolving reputation because he's available and a free, but I don't know that any clubs were beating down the door to buy him if he was 40 or 50 million. If Marseille were refusing to sell him, I don't know if there's a laundry list of suitors saying he's one of the best in the business. And I know, like, probably considered Chukwuemeka from Monaco, and there's a lot of, is he even available? Do Real Madrid already have him stitched up? But that's maybe the only one where I'm like, I would like to think we're getting the best available center defensive midfield player.
I could speak to that a little bit, and I agree with what you're saying. So in the way that I've fielded my team, that team right there, and here's the thing. Is he your classic CDM? No. But what I think he could do in this team with Haidara or even a Tillemans, I was flip-flopping very hard on those two. I think the work ethic that Haidara has is what we need more than what Tillemans can offer, especially with a Ruben Neves. So I think if you have a true CDM and you have two workers with skill and ability in front of them, it frees them up offensively to get forward. With a true CDM, fucking Kamara can tackle like nobody. He's not the quickest, but he's sharp. And if you have three midfielders that can move the ball, what we have not done enough is give our forwards the ball enough to give them attacking opportunities. And people don't talk about that when it comes to United. Everyone says, our forwards are shit. You know what else? They don't really get the ball as much as other forwards do because we can't keep the ball. Here's the other thing, and this is where I'd really like to get the opinion from both of you guys. We could also do either a 4-2, and this is what Ten Hag started with at Ajax, and I think it's when he's going to start with at United. So if I do go instead of that CDM, I'm going to drop those two midfielders back, and I'm going to make that center defenseman Bruno in an attacking role. And I'd still stick with Haidara and Neves, but it allows Bruno that freedom. The question here is, will Bruno put in the work, and will Bruno go across and back like Ten Hag is? It's not going to ask him to. He's going to demand that he does. Because I actually hope Bruno is the one that can adapt to his system the most. Because if he can, you cannot deny how creative Bruno Fernandez is and what he can create from goals and assists. So if you have two guys instead of Scott McTominay and Fred or Matic behind him and him doing enough of a role, the question is two things. How good can he be, or can he even get into the squad with the new style and demand of play? And I really am asking both of you because I don't know the answer.
Well, I'll jump in if you don't mind, Paul. I think what's fair to say about Bruno this season is that this is the shittiest, or the worst, I should say, the worst team that we've seen United play in 10 years at least.
For
right?
sure.
And teams are not afraid to play United, so they completely disrespect us week in, week out. And we've seen how poor Bruno is when he has pressure. When teams press against us, it's you just see it happening. You know, it's the ticket to win the game against United. Just press them because they can't handle the pressure at
Correct.
all. Right? So I think Bruno's success is going to be a result of Ten Hag's entire success as a team. I think if like you said, he's very demanding. If our teams are now extremely afraid to play against, Bruno is just going to, automatically benefit from that because he will have the freedom, right? He's just not going to have, people on him right away.
But will he do the defensive duty required getting back and moving around with the man mark? It's not what he can do moving forward. I'm very concerned with what he's willing to do off the ball. Paul, what do you think?
He'll get beat. Sorry, Paul. One last time. He'll get beat. He'll tackle a guy and get a yellow card. That's what will happen to Bruno. He'll continue to do that.
Yeah. I see Bruno running around more than anybody else does in this current Man United squad. Like, I think he runs a little bit aimlessly because we're kind of aimless right now anyways. So I don't really have a hard time with that. It is a question mark of where does Bruno fit into time. Like, the Ten Hag system is a little bit weird for Bruno. And he's played many systems. Like, there's this illusion that he only plays one way. He's played different ways across different clubs at different times. So for me, I look at this squad and I'm like, even if I were to just go Neves and Fred playing as double pivots with Bruno in front of them, immediately we are much better as a midfield in terms of physically moving around the pitch and controlling the ball and spreading passes and switching play. Like, immediately one player has made that much better. And I think everybody kind of forgets, Fred has been very good since he's played in a more advanced role.
Yeah.
One of Ragnick came in as this guy doesn't belong back there. He belongs up here. And he has been he's got this bad reputation, but he's night and day. So, and this isn't turning into a whole Fred rant. It's just more to say one shift of one Ruben Neves quality player or anybody who knows how to move the ball better than Scott McTominay, which is a long list. And all of a sudden, I feel like we are more press resistant. We are more dangerous on the counter. Bruno gets more time to be more creative. There's more control. There's less frenzy. And that's one move. So I look at this plan and I'm like, I have kind of no problem with it. I just don't really know where the starters are. And I do think in year 2 or 3 of your project is when you probably identify the better version of a CDM.
Polished. Yeah. Now,
or more polished, or who is the, who is the maybe even better version of Bruno for this system if it comes to that. That's fine.
Here's what I want to talk about too as well. So with those midfielders, and I think Paul, you make a great point. If we bought 2 solid midfielders, and I'm not being disingenuous when I say this, I think the team improves by 50%, 5-0. That's how bad it is. But that front line, with a guy like Nkunku, if you have that midfield, the amount of speed, pace, and creativity, and I love Ronaldo. It's hard not to love Ronaldo. But the problem I have is fluidity. And I need someone, this is why I don't want a Darwin Núñez. Now, first of all, I think he's having a one-season wonder, and I don't think he'd cut it in the Premier League. I need a guy who can play across the front line, not only get on a ball and score, but help the wingers and the midfielders. I think kind of like a Man City, even a Liverpool. I think your traditional number 9, I think it's a thing of the past, and I think it's a guy who can play across the front 3. He's a really good player who has a lot of capabilities, and I think it's about complementing the wingers and the attacking midfielders you have, letting them run onto the ball, coming deeper, and creating that Ten Hag system, that if you slot a guy in there with 2 very strong, capable midfielders behind him, like a Neves or a Haidara or Tielemans, you're banging in goals. Jaden Sancho is an elite winger. I think he's an elite winger. Antony's great. Even Elanga, fine. Throw Elanga in on the right. Elanga's going to get better. We're already way ahead of the game, and at least we're going to compete. We might still lose to Liverpool 3-1, 2-1, but we're going to put in a shift, and we're going to try, and we're going to at least be believing into a system, which I see none of now. So I'm looking forward to that more than anything.
My last question is the challenging question. This is where we break into a little bit of reality. and this could be collective for everybody. Everybody has a chance to answer this question. 3 moves and only 3 moves brought in. No need to tell me who you need to sell. We won't get into that. But if you can only pick 3 players to bring in this upcoming summer, Dave, from your list, Carlos, you're free to pick anybody you want. Let's give you the opportunity to act as director yourself. But start with Dave. Dave, of your moves, what are the 3 moves that are, even if you just did those 3, you're feeling like you're doing your job as director of football?
Yeah, Ruben Neves, Hydera, Amadou Hydera, and Pau Torres. Those 3.
I tend to think what you've just done is strengthen the defense considerably, more press resistant with Pau Torres, left footer, good with the ball, probably an upgrade, at least somebody who can compete with Harry Maguire minimum, and you've basically like brought in a midfield where there was no midfield. So
basically,
I'm okay with that. Carlos, difficult question. You can base your picks on what you've heard today with players, or if there's somebody completely unconsidered by Dave, you have no budget. You can free for all, whatever you want, but 3 players you want to bring in this summer for Man United.
Ooh, Carlos.
Well, I am the fan, and I'm at the pub. I've had a few pints, so I am the wanker. I haven't done the research that Dave, our director, has done. I would, it'd be interesting to see. Can we get Christian Eriksen? Maybe he could, slot in not bad with the lack of midfield we have. I think no matter what we do, if we address the center defensive midfield role and and as well as the center back, we're going to be so much better off. Get a Ruben Neves, get whoever in there. It's going to be better than what we have. Don't go after Darwin Núñez, because realistically speaking, is Núñez going to get you more goals than Ronaldo? Ronaldo I think he's going to have the second best season as a United player this year. And he used to play for Fergie. Like, isn't that insane? Like, why would you write off Ronaldo? Like, yeah, he's not going to press. He's not going to run around. Like, he's 37. He's 38 now. He's going to be 39 next year. But he's still going to get you the goals. Honestly, guys, I have no idea. I'm not the director of football operations, but I want us to compete. I want to see some heart on the pitch.
All right, Carlos, come on, let's do the math here. You've brought in 2 players so far. Ruben Neves, you've said. Can't remember who the other guy was.
I said Christian Eriksen.
Christian Eriksen,
yeah. So you got to pick somebody. Is there a center back that maybe you think is a better option than our current?
I don't know. I wouldn't go after Declan Rice. I think he's overpriced. That's the kind of transfer that we used to go after all the time. The local. He's one of our own boys.
Being very political. You're filling time with things that you wouldn't do instead.
I don't know. I don't research these guys like the way you guys do.
Pick a center back. Anybody.
Anybody.
Yeah, well, we're done putting you on the spot, Carlos.
Yeah, I would have taken Ruben Diaz 3 years ago.
There you go.
Fine. Okay, so my last, and we'll sign off because this has obviously gone on for a while, but my last thought, because the benefit of an exercise like this is that it is a mental exercise, but to do the mental exercise, you really have to start understanding what the problems are and how difficult it might be to fill those problems in. None of us here, except for Dave, have actually gone through the actual exercise of coming up with these solutions. Dave, from this exercise, do you think we're fucked as a club? Are Man United maybe not that fucked? Like, what's your sense of how difficult the actual job ahead is for whoever is ultimately responsible for the real moves and the real direction of the club?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in big trouble, and here's the reality. Whether we like it or not, because of the out-of-contract players, you're going to I had 16, but now let's do the reality check. There's probably going to be 10 to 12 leave, and there's probably going to be 6 coming in. Here's the other thing, though, too, and I have no problem with this. United squad's been a little too heavy with players in general the last couple of years, so I don't think it's a huge issue, and Paul made a comment earlier. The academy is starting to look quite a bit. There's about 4 or 5 guys there that you're starting to see. Like, we didn't talk about Hannibal Medbury and other players, but I think you're going to see at least 12 come out. We're going to have to get at least 6 in. But if those 6 are the right 6, I could see us, if everyone buys in and gets on the manager's level, I could see that being enough to compete for top 4. It just has to be the right 6, and that's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, awesome. Great job. Difficult job, obviously. This will be the longest of these videos because Man United have the most to do of any of the clubs that we're going to be doing these videos for. But special thanks to Dave Convery, our director of football, and Carlos, our representative from the Man United community and fan base. You can see him at Just for Laughs this summer. It's his one-man show, Carlos and his sex life. It's a riot. I've seen some test footage. It's gross, but it's really funny.
Entertaining nonetheless. But can we all agree the one thing we need more than anything is for the season to end immediately?
I want it done now.
Don't have Liverpool or City win it. Just leave it as is right now. Like I couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't need to see them win another trophy.
We're not saying we're cheering for another pandemic, but
this squad overhaul is going to be a pandemic.
We're not. Okay, boys, say goodnight.
Good night, boys.
Good night. Brought you by Manscaped.
We pretended to be frozen there, but
yeah, we did. Big thanks to Paul for putting this together here. Paul puts in a lot of work behind the scenes here, the YouTube channel for the North End. So thank you, Paul. Great work.
Well,
and
thank you for noticing. I would now like to give everybody a 25-minute speech I prepared. And
This is the North End. This is the North End.
where's Carlos going?
I left it back on. Bye, Carlos. Bye, everybody.
Bye.